Hey guys, in today's video, I wanted to touch on a topic that a lot of you are asking me about, and that is how do you deal with brand in e-commerce Google Ads in 2025? Let's get into it. So what is the issue of brand that everyone talks about with Google Ads? So particularly this becomes an issue mainly in Performance Max because it's a little bit hidden, but it is an issue across most campaign types, so search, shopping, and PMax. Not so much the other ones because it doesn't really apply, but it's the issue where your own brand name is generating sales. Now, that in and of itself isn't a bad thing because we do want to protect our brand. We want to capture bottom of funnel traffic. The kicker is we do not want to be overspending on it or all our sales are coming from there. And out of most accounts I audit, brand is where I'd say 80, 90, 95% of a lot of their spend is going, and that's where their sales are coming from. There's little to no cold or new customers coming into their funnel unless it's from another channel. And that's a big problem because a lot of people are spending a lot of money and they're overspending on their own brand, which isn't good. It's not just not good, it's just unnecessary, and it means that they're overinflating their return on ad spend on Google because it's like, if you're getting a 2, 3, 4, 5x on brand, it's not that great. You can get much higher. Whenever you see those big fancy screenshots online, normally they're including a huge amount of brand. And what you want to do, and if your agency isn't doing this or your team's not doing this, is you want to segment brand into its own campaign to the best of your ability. It's very hard to capture completely, particularly if you have sub-brands. So if you have Nike and then you have the Air Jordans, they're two separate brands, and capturing both of them sometimes can be tricky for some brands if they've got a lot of them. It's not impossible, but it's tricky. And how do you actually deal with it? Well, you always want to have your branded search campaign to segment out the search traffic that comes from brand. So when we do that, we're then able to go X amount of sales and X amount of return on ad spend came from our own brand name. What it also does is it means that Performance Max doesn't do that job, because if you don't have a branded search, Performance Max will become your branded search campaign in essence. And you can check that using Micro's script, which will show you where the spend is. If you have heavy spend in search in a Performance Max campaign, it means that it's basically serving the function of a branded search campaign, which is not ideal because we can't easily report and segment that. Now, what do we do for the shopping and PMax non-search traffic? We've got our branded search. Well, what we need to do is, there's a few ways we can do this. We could just use standard shopping and have a includes brand shopping. We could call it our shopping remarketing campaign, for example, which we could then report on, hey, this has a higher return on ad spend. We can set a higher ROAS on it as well. And we'll go, our brand is just in there, our branded sales. And then we know our branded return on ad spend and non-branded. How do we know that? We then have a cold shopping campaign as well. We could have a bestsellers, whatever it is you do, but you've segmented out. And in that other campaign, you are adding all the negative keywords for your own brand. And this gives you the control. This is a really good way to do it. I often still do this, but if you are using PMax, I still use PMax as well. How you do it with PMax is you've got to be careful, because if you completely exclude it using, well, one, the brand exclusion tool in the settings of PMax doesn't work. So that actually doesn't work, despite what people say, it does not work. The issue becomes though, if you add all your branded keywords as negatives into a PMax and then don't have another PMax that includes brand, what I find is that your PMax brand specific stuff, it stops your ads coming up for any branded terms at all. It's really weird. It completely stops it, even if you have a shopping campaign, because it just seems to completely exclude it across the board. And for whatever reason, it's not a good look. I've had a client contact me late at night going, hey, I'm searching my own brand, I'm on the Gold Coast, what's going on? And I have backup campaign there in the area of the Gold Coast, just increasing that bid, one, to keep them happy, and then two, also it's where they sell most of their products, so it makes sense. We get a better conversion rate, we get a better cost per conversion, we can afford to. So you've got to be careful with doing that because it will completely exclude it. Now, what can you do to avoid that? You can have a second PMax campaign, and within that, you can include branded terms. You just have to label it correctly. Labeling things correctly is so important, particularly when you're going brand, excludes. I've seen so many accounts and ordered them lately where it's completely incorrect. And you'll have something that says, hoodies, it's women's pants. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's correctly labeled. And it might say includes brand or excludes brand, and it doesn't, or it does. And it's like, people are not labeling campaigns correctly. I think part of it is to mislead and inflate a return on ad spend on a campaign, which isn't good, but it's just something to be aware of. But this is probably the number one problem I see in ad accounts. And here's why it's a problem. You're limiting your sales, right? Because you're just focusing on this tiny portion of the bottom of the funnel and all your spend's going there. And despite your return on ad spend might look good, but I'm telling you now, it's probably massively overinflated, and it's actually not even that good, to be honest, in a lot of accounts. And you can often beat it with cold traffic, believe it or not. Despite what people think, if you do get some cold traffic coming in, you'll be surprised at the return on ad spend you can get. And then once it blends with your brand, you will still end up with a really good return on ad spend. So what I tend to do, I don't like going in and completely upsetting the apple cart in a new account. I'll come in and I'll slowly do it. I'll exclude a little bit of brand, I'll introduce a little bit of cold. I'll massage it, and slowly, over time, the cold will be the bulk of the sales, the brand will be less. And that's the idea you want to have, because when you do that, you're then getting a much better spread across the funnel. And then you can also start introducing other campaign types like search and demand, video, and display remarketing, all these different things you can do, but you need to have those solid foundations in place. If you don't have those, none of this stuff will work well, and you'll be overspending on brand. And what happens when people go, I increased my Google Ads budget and I didn't get any more sales, it wasn't incremental. I hear this all the time. This is the reason. The reason is you're overspending on brand. You've got no cold traffic coming into your funnel, into your store, and over time, you're basically eating into your own customer base, and it's getting smaller and smaller, and you're overspending on it. And not filling that is a great way to allow your competitors to come in and beat you, particularly in your competitive auctions. And over the long term, you'll find that if you go back and look at years prior, your clicks have gone down, your impressions have gone down, everything's gone down, right? Except your costs. Your costs have gone up. And it's not good, because that means someone else is taking that market share, and you might have picked it up in other channels, but if you want to smash it on Google, this is what you have to do. All right, guys, I will leave a guide below that shows you exactly how I run ads, and you want help, just reach out. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next one.